Mystical McKay, and today we are reading Chapter 6 of the completion process. Are you ready? I am. I'm going to tune in on Twitch and see who's coming in and maybe give you guys a couple of minutes before we get started so that we can all join. I'm very, very excited for this because this is the beginning of my favorite part, actually getting into the actual completion process. The last chapter that we went into was sort of more about taking all of the processes, which are like literally 18 steps, and confining them into like a minute or less. Which is not really a realistic way of experiencing the process because it's lengthy usually. So this is the part of the book where she kind of takes one step and really goes into depth about it. Chapter 6, we begin. I'm just going to make sure. Let me know if the audio is good. If the video is good. I kind of look shady today. I don't have any makeup on, so I just kind of look like a scrub, but that's alright. It's Sunday. Thank you guys for being here with me. If everything's going smoothly, then we can get started. Wow, we're almost like halfway through this already. Can I be heard? Oh my gosh, I can't even see what you just said. Ryan, if you're in here, I didn't see what you just sent me on Snapchat. I saw the message and then it disappeared, so. Anyway, hi. We're going to get started if the audio is good and the video is good. Hi! Thank you for being here with me, guys. We are reading again, one of my favorite things to do ever. And I hope you enjoy listening. I know I don't have the most pleasing voice of all time. I just enjoy speaking, so let's get started. Chapter 6. Steps 1 through 6. Safe haven and accessing the memory. When the trauma we experienced is buried deep within us, we are often not even aware that it is there. However, we experience the reflection of that buried trauma as emotional reactions in our day-to-day life. These reactions are painful, and so we behave just like we did when we experienced the original trauma. We do anything we can to get away from the way that we feel and attempt to feel better instead. This sets us up to spend our lives trying to escape from ourselves and trying to avoid facing the way that we really feel. When we commence healing with the completion process, we move forward, guided by the tenet that the only way out is in. We first lay upon the rest of the process which is built. We begin the process of using our feeling reaction to actually help us find and willingly re-experience the memories that are casually linked to them. We learn how to be completely and unconditionally present within ourselves. The following 6 steps of this process are presented in full detail so that you can understand the importance of each one and how to proceed through them. As mentioned, please read through all the steps in chapters 6 through 8 before you start actually doing the completion process. This way, you will know what to watch out for when you are ready to proceed. Step 1, and my personal favorite step, which I think would go for just about anybody. Thank you guys. Step 1, creating a safe haven. This first step sets up a safe haven in your mind that also creates a primary safe support figure. This step is critical because so many of us on this earth do not feel safe. This is especially true when we are dealing with traumatic memories of any kind. When we start the completion process by setting up a safe haven within our minds, we have a place that is within our control and that we can visit at any time. We only have to do this one time, unless we wish to add more elements to the safe place or create an entirely new one. If we have already set up a mental safe haven, we can commence the completion process each time we do it by starting with step 2. Our safe haven acts as a foundation for the completion process, giving us a stable base camp from which to do our retrieval work. It's crucial that we provide this kind of secure place so that the missing aspects of ourselves that we are retrieving from our memories will be able to return safely. Crazy. By creating this safe haven in our minds, we are able to bend the physical rules that govern and restrict us in our physical life. For example, a cut on your arm might actually take 2 weeks to heal in physical life, but in our safe haven, we can put on a special salve on it, and it can heal before our eyes. This kind of magical thinking is a critical ingredient when we are healing from states of powerlessness. You will find that a child who experiences trauma almost always feels some degree of powerlessness. Therefore, when our child self is able to experience a thoughtscape where anything is possible, that thoughtscape experience is healing to that child in and of itself. As for creating the safe haven, keep in mind that this will be an intensely individual place. Therefore, there's no right or wrong way to create it. We need to allow our minds to reveal us to what would feel absolutely best. For very specific reasons, I have designed a mental process for setting up the safe haven in a way that I describe below, but don't be afraid to bend or change the process Don't be afraid to bend or change the process in accordance to your own needs or the needs of the person that you are helping or facilitating. For example, when I walk people through the completion process, I ask the person to imagine walking through a tunnel to get to their safe haven. This creates a necessary and believable mental separation between the physical memory and the safe haven. But if a client happens to have gone through a war or had a negative experience with tunnels or caves, then using that image or going through a tunnel would present a negative association and a negative feeling of safety that we are trying to create. So if you know that you or the person that you are helping has a sensitive side to certain common images, you must design an entrance and safe haven in a way that feels fully secure. Makes sense, right? Another construct I like to use in the safe haven is to ask the person to create a water feature, which they will later experience the healing and purification of the water. But if water makes someone feel unsafe, then of course I would change the suggestion to some other element or substance. If possible, it's best to construct your safe haven by having someone else walk you through it so that you can concentrate, so that your concentration is not broken by having to refer back to the written text. Your friend or practitioner might read you the guided meditation below, or you could record yourself reading the words slowly and gently, and then play it back. Ooh. Here's a sample of the words that I often use when helping someone to create a safe haven in their mind. Listen to the words as a guide to help you set up your safe haven. Creating your safe haven. Guided meditation. As you take this first step into the completion process, begin by making yourself as comfortable as possible, either sitting in a chair or lying flat on the bed or on the floor. Gently close your eyes. Allow the weight of your body to settle down towards the earth. Take a few deep breaths and let go a little bit more with each exhale. Now allow your breath to settle and find its own natural rhythm. If you notice the body or the mind tensing around your experience, gently let go again without judgment. And now imagine that you are walking along a path. You are drawn to this path, and it is leading you towards your own sanctuary, where you can always come to experience peace and safety. Look down at your feet. What kind of path are you walking on? What is it made out of? Is it made out of stone or wood? Is the pathway that leads to another galaxy or dimension? Perhaps it has been specifically made out of some material that is not yet known to this world. Is it sewn with something, such as flower petals or shells? Is the path narrow or wide? See and feel this path within your own mind. As you continue to walk along the path, breathe freely and easily. Sense your anxieties and stresses and pressures and notice how they can fade away. They are unable to follow you here. Up ahead, you notice a secret entryway that only you can see. This entryway is the door leading to your very own safe haven. How is this entryway concealed? Perhaps it's a wooden door covered in ivy. Perhaps it's a portal that opens and closes when you say a magic word. Maybe it's a cave entrance that appears in the snow. Imagine or sense this unique secret entryway, revealing itself only to you as you approach it. Then walk through the entryway. As your eyes adjust to the light, you realize that you are now walking or being pulled through a secret tunnel or portal. What does this tunnel look like? Is it a wormhole in space? Is it a cave in the ocean? Ooh. Is it a tunnel made of dirt and stone? What do the tunnel walls look like? Are they covered with beautiful, exotic flowers? Is the tunnel made of metal or some other man-made material? Is the tunnel made of swirling energy? Just experience this secret, this sacred tunnel that leads you to your very own safe and sacred place. I see it. You continue to walk through the tunnel. Suddenly, you see your perfect sanctuary for the very first time. You step into it, and you can hear or feel or see the tunnel close behind you so that no one can follow. In a space that is created by the mind, there are no limitations whatsoever. This place can be as real or as imagined as your soul wants it to be. This place could be like a place that is found on Earth, or like a place from a science fiction or fantasy novel. As your safe haven is revealed to you, you may see that you are outside, in the mountains, or on a beach. Ooh, yes. I did the beach. Or perhaps you're inside a soup bubble. A soap bubble, soup bubble. I was like, huh? It says soap. A flower. Or a geode floating through space. Looking back at the earth. Ooh. You may be in a forest, or in a coral reef under the ocean waves, or in a billowy clouds. Your safe haven might even be in another dimension, another galaxy or planet. This is the place that makes you feel the most at ease, the safest, and the freest. Now look around you. What can you see? Are there birds or trees here? Are there fish or any other animals? If you're outside, what's the weather like here? Spend some time noticing all the things that you can see in your safe haven. What can you hear? Is there any wind rustling through leaves in the trees? A beautiful song? The sound of waves crashing? Or maybe the sound of absolute silence? Spend a moment noticing the sounds that fill your safe haven. What can you smell? Can you smell ocean foam? Or dampness of soil? Can you smell the scent of bread or cookies baking in the oven? Can you smell the scent of summer rain? Or is it an out-of-this-world smell that you have never smelled before? A smelly smell that smells smelly, sorry. Spend a moment noticing the smells that linger in the air in your safe haven. Now you're going to create a house or a dwelling in this safe haven. Since you're a designer and builder of your own safe haven, you get to decide exactly how you want it to be. You may design a palace or a treehouse. From simple to a simple rustic cabin. Inside the place are beds where your child self chooses to lie down and rest to sleep. The beds can be ordinary beds, or they can be nests or forts. Design whatever bed feels the most inviting to you or your child self. You can make this house in and out of anything you wish, real or imagined. If you've built a room and are there windows in the rooms? What can you see out of them? If you wish, you can decorate your safe haven. both inside and out. Perhaps you would like to leave it simple and natural. Perhaps you would like to adorn your safe haven with rays of light, or flowers, or special rocks, crystals, or shells. Perhaps there are hand-woven rugs, should you wish to lie down. What material would you choose? Who would make them? Choose the decorations you love. Now, somewhere in this safe haven, see a water feature. This might be an ocean or a fountain, a stream or a lake. It could be a bathtub, hot shower. And imagine that this water is special water. It's magic water. Anything that touches it is instantly healed. See the water shimmering and sparkling in the light. What color is this water? Is it clear, opaque, or iridescent? Maybe it's turquoise, or purple, or gold. This is going to be where you bathe and heal your child's self as she comes to the safe haven. Now imagine that in your safe haven there is a kind and loving being or person who is strong enough to assist you and tend to you in this safe haven. Your safe haven is where this being or person lives. This safe support figure is a being or person who is so transcendent that he or she is able to calmly and lovingly assist with anything he or she may ever come across. This is your own personal helper. Who is this person? Who is this being? Is it a character from a novel you read once? Is it an imagined person? Is it someone you admire, such as Jesus or the Buddha? Is it someone you know and trust, such as a grandmother who has passed? Is it an angel or a benevolent extraterrestrial being? Or maybe a favorite superhero? What is his or her name? Spend some time acquainting yourself with this special being. Know that this being that lives in your safe haven will be there for you anytime you want or need. Let me just say as a side note, when I did this process, I literally thought of Ram Dass as my support system figure. So it can literally be anything. Breathing freely and easily, look about your peaceful safe haven and see if there is anything else that you wish to add to it. For example, maybe you would like to add animals, real ones, or fantasy ones. Take a moment to decide what would make this safe haven for you feel even more perfect to you, and add it to that scene. Now imagine that in this peaceful space, there is somewhere for you to sit or lie down. A place that you can come to sink deeply into relaxation and security. Is it a chair? Is it a bed? Is it a hammock? Is it a smooth rock or a throne on the edge of a cliff? What does it look like? What color is it? What material is it made out of? Take a seat now in whatever resting place you have designed. No matter where you find yourself resting, feel the tension and stress drain away with the peaceful safety of this sacred place. This is the place you can come to sit and feel at peace anytime you should wish. It's also the place that you can sit and hold your childhood self if you should retrieve this child and he simply just wants to be held by you or to fall asleep in your lap. Spend some time here, observing and listening and smelling and feeling this perfect place. Let your mind make the imaged place as magical and unbelievably perfect as possible. Whenever you feel ready to rejoin your day-to-day life, imagine yourself slowly standing up and leaving your safe haven. You leave through a doorway that opens only for you. In response to your presence, a signal, a code, or a special phrase that you recite. Whenever you come here, use your signal or code to gain entry. Take a moment to memorize this special way that you, and only you, can gain access to your safe haven. Take a look back at this safe haven, knowing that you can come here anytime you wish. Know that you always feel completely content here and completely safe and stress-free. Know that you can change or add to your peaceful sanctuary at any time. At this point, you must proceed to the next part of the completion process, step 2, or if you'd rather just return immediately to full consciousness, then proceed through the next 2 paragraphs of this visualization. Once you visit your safe haven and it is complete, turn back and walk through the second doorway, back through the tunnel that opens up once more, and follow the pathway that brought you to this place. Taking a few deep breaths, decide for yourself if you are ready to return. If you are, bring your attention back to the full awareness of your body lying on the bed or sitting on the chair. Feel yourself in firm contact with the earth. Tune into the movements of breath in your body and gradually externalize your awareness, listening to the sounds of the room and feeling the air against your skin. When you're ready, gently open your eyes and reacclimate to your real-life surroundings. So that's how you know how to get out of it if you want to get out of it after just doing the safe haven part. Returning to the completion process. As we progress through the completion process, we will find ourselves changing or adding things to our safe haven. This is normal. As your childhood self comes to the safe haven and enters with her own desires and preferences, we will see a great many additions to this place. For example, one part of your childhood self might want a sandbox, so a sandbox will become a part of the safe haven. Another part of your child self may want a unicorn to keep her company, so a unicorn might be added to the safe haven. You may decide that you want to change that house for children to live in, or to build a second one to a completely different style just to suit your childhood selves whenever you come to stay. You may even wish to add beloved relatives to your safe haven. There is no limit to what you can do to enhance your own safe haven, so it becomes your own sacred mental paradise. Trust it to evolve over time in exact accordance with what is absolutely best for you. Emotional Vipassana, Step 2. Yes. Whew. Now we practice emotional Vipassana. Whenever you are experiencing a strong, uncomfortable emotion or feeling in the present time, close your eyes and sink into that feeling. As you do, familiarize yourself with the unique sensations or the feeling flavor of that uncomfortable feeling. Ensure that you are unconditionally with that feeling, truly experiencing it and observing it without needing it to change. After a time, see if you can name that feeling. If thoughts arise, just observe them in a detached way, as if they are rising like bubbles in the mind, and let them be there. You can do this step with yourself anytime, regardless of whether there is a particular feeling present. It's simply much easier and more impactful when a strong emotion is present. This step, along with step 3, are the two most crucial parts of the entire process. If you did not do any other part in this process, this would be enough, because this is the step that facilitates emotional integration. Here's how this step works. When the average person begins to feel emotional pain, he subconsciously interprets that pain as something that is trying to hurt him. We feel like the underdog to our own pain. If emotional pain is a chronic aspect of someone's life, then this subconscious interpretation leads to a kind of living hell. When we think that an emotional pain is trying to hurt us, it begins to feel like we are living with the enemy inside our own skin, as if an aspect of ourselves has turned against us and is trying to destroy us. But because it's inside us, we cannot escape it. It's hard. From this point forward, it's better to view emotional pain in a different way. Instead of viewing it as trying to hurt us, we need to view it as desperately crying for our help. We need to adopt the perspective that our pain is like a child who doesn't know how to make itself feel better. It's doing everything it can to get our attention so that we can take care of it. And to take care of it, we must first embrace it and listen to what it's even trying to convey. In other words, our emotions are like messengers, and we must embrace emotional pain and listen to what it's trying to tell us. By allowing the feelings, listening to it, experiencing it, and being completely with it, the lost aspects of ourselves are allowed to rejoin us. We also receive the message that the emotional pain is trying to send us. This is why you will find that effortless realization and insight so often accompanies this step. You can imagine what is happening in this step by thinking of yourself standing in a house. Imagine that your child self is outside the door, crying and trying to get in. You could try to avoid the child and avoid the child's desperation to join you inside the house. Or you could go open the door and let the child in. When you go in the direction of your emotions and experience them by opening yourself up to them, then you are, in essence, opening the door for your childhood self to rejoin you and thus fully integrate with you. Wow. So during this step, you essentially stop running from the tornado that is chasing you, and you run right into it. Once you develop a willingness to feel, eventually your emotions will no longer frighten you. This is the beginning of true and lasting peace, from which so many good things are possible. You'll no longer feel any need to try to sedate, control, or avoid any of your negative emotions. Self-medication will not be needed. Your emotions are the truest representation of who you are. Yes. Your emotions are the truest representation of who you are. When you move away from the way you feel, you're doing the same thing to yourself that the parent might have done to you when he or she moved away from a child who is crying to be held, fed, or changed. This step is important because it allows us to consider that if we have a strong emotional feeling, there must be a good reason to feel that way. In other words, there must be a genuine reason as to why we are experiencing this intense emotion. In today's world, there are plenty of escape routes to take to run away from the truth of oneself in a current moment. But you will soon find that every one of those escape routes has a dead end. You will run and run and run until you realize that the running will never end. It's the running that is, in fact, what is torturing you. By giving yourself unconditional attention and presence in the face of the uncontrollable emotion, without being in a hurry to get over it, you are giving yourself the unconditional love that you did not get enough of when you were young. This is what is really doing the healing. Nothing on this earth is more healing than unconditional, focused presence. Physical sensations that may arise. When you are doing this part of the process, don't be surprised if you begin to experience extreme sensations within your body, with an aspect of your consciousness rejoining you. It can give rise to dramatic sensations, not unlike the sudden injection of a drug into your system. The drug might make you feel as if your whole body is tingling, or as if you are expanding or shrinking, or that your skin is on fire. Don't be surprised if you experience tactile hallucinations. Hallucinations also, where you might feel very tiny or very large, or see things around you in distorted sizes, and physical sensations that are disorienting or painful. Know that it is not uncommon to feel these things, and you will get through it. In fact, when this happens during the completion process, it's actually a really good sign. It means that you are integrating the emotion with the rest of yourself in the now, as if a puzzle piece is being clicked back into its correct place. My recommendation is to breathe through these strong sensations and surrender to them with the intention of allowing them to run their course. Sometimes, just the fact that we are willing to be present in the way that we are will bring us relief. Just let whatever surfaces surface, and let whatever changes change. On occasion, people will experience a numbness as a result of doing this part of the exercise. If that is, it is as if the attention to the emotion makes it go away. In reality, it has not gone away. Some people might even fall asleep. If this is the case, this person is encountering a defense mechanism within himself or herself. The defense mechanism is unconsciousness. Sometimes when our emotions are too painful and we can't do anything about them, we cope by becoming unconscious of the way we feel, or even becoming unconscious in general. If this happens, treat it like any other response. Stay present with your unconsciousness. It's a layer that you need to let yourself sink into and drop through the bottom of. In other words, treat any numbness you feel like it is its own emotion and that you would lovingly and unconditionally experience. If you fall asleep, let yourself fall asleep. If you experience hopelessness or frustration because the feeling went away, then experience that feeling fully. Welcome any and all experiences and feelings because this is the way you will heal. Dealing with hopelessness, feelings, or mental stories. You may run into a thought and subsequent feeling of, I can't, at this stage of the process. Be aware that this is just a reflection of the hopelessness that you felt long ago. When people struggle with shadow work, it's usually because there is a layer of hopelessness, such as a feeling that this idea won't work, that needs to be integrated before they can progress. Be present with whatever arises. We don't have a goal for this process. We are not in a rush. Our process for doing it is to rejoin with ourselves and whatever is true right here and now. If at any point in this process the feeling becomes difficult or unbearable, you can get through it by making sure that you are breathing deeply and deliberately. The breath can create a space within you for the emotions so that you can stay with it. Imagine your breath embracing this emotion. During this step, we want to stay with the sensations of the feeling, not the mental story about it. For example, I feel unwanted is a story about a sensation. I feel heaviness or buzzing is a feeling. In order to truly get out of the mental story and into the feeling, try to describe, recognize, or notice anything that you can about the unique quality of the sensation of the emotion or feeling. Sometimes you need to let it play around inside you and eventually spread throughout your whole body. Welcome it more and more and see if you can name that feeling. Familiarize yourself with it. The stronger the emotion is, the easier it will be. Don't be surprised if strong emotional reactions come up as a result of being with your emotion. For example, you might find that you might begin weeping uncontrollably or shaking. I encourage you to fully allow these reactions to flow. Don't suppress them in any way. Often, emotional energy needs to move. This is incredibly, incredibly healing. This body is cleansing itself. If you are facilitating someone within this process and they're doing the process, you see them start to cry. You might notice that they are tempted to try to compose themselves. It's natural, but it's actually impeding their healing. It's best to gently encourage them to allow whatever reaction that they're having while staying present within their own feelings. If you are facilitating someone within the process and this person doing the process, oh, I just said that, begins to cry. Yeah, it's good to know that though, because like, you know how some people are like, and I wanted to mention also, when I first did the completion process myself, that's exactly what I did. I did the completion process on the part of myself that believed kind of subconsciously that it wasn't going to work for me. And it did wonders. Alright, and recognizing cover emotions. Within this step, we learn to become aware of our cover emotions. Cover emotions function exactly like ice on the surface of a deep lake. In the same way that the ice covers the water, a cover emotion exists to cover on top of another emotion that rests below it. Ice on a lake prevents you from falling through and into the water, and in the same way, the cover emotion is preventing you from sinking into a feeling, an emotion that is designed to cover. Cover emotions exist to keep us out of our extremely low vibrational states. They are natural defense mechanisms within our emotional bodies. Anger is often a cover emotion for fear, just as hatred is often a cover emotion for feeling hurt. Desperation is often a cover emotion for despair. Numbness is often a cover-up for shock or confusion. When we are completely present with an emotion, we often drop into an even deeper level of emotion. It's a bit like an emotional version of falling through the ice into the deep water below. If we feel like we have encountered a cover emotion, we can ask ourselves, what is below this? If you are facilitating someone into this process, you can ask the person, what's underneath this feeling? Is there something deeper or more painful there? In this way, we encourage ourselves or someone else to metaphorically fall through the ice. Once the person goes deeper, he or she will have a greater access to the causation of the real emotion. The real emotion is the one that covers emotion, that the cover emotion might be trying to save or rescue him or her from. If we feel particularly resistant to this part of the process, or feel like we can't allow ourselves to be pulled more deeply into that emotion, we need to ask ourselves, am I ready to go into this feeling? This question places us in an attitude of choice. In choice, there is freedom. Often the emotions that we are most resistant to are feelings of powerlessness. Making a choice about whether or not to be with a feeling of powerlessness is in itself empowering. Honestly, sometimes what we need for our own healing is just to recognize that yes, we do have that choice. For this reason, we must honor the answer regardless of what it is. We don't have to do what we don't want to do. There is a huge difference between doing something that scares us and that we really don't want to do, and doing something that scares us but that we really do want to do. Truly, we should be the only ones doing the latter. Therefore, if you are facilitating someone in your process, you must let them choose. You must give this other person the reins to steer their own life. This is the only way lasting healing occurs. If someone doesn't feel ready and doesn't want to go into their feelings, Even with the reassurance that you are there with them, you need to give them permission not to enter that emotion. If that happens, then I recommend that you help them be present with the emotion that arises as a result. I believe that we especially need to help the other person feel the feeling of empowerment that comes as a result of getting to choose. If we feel as if we are being pulled out of the emotion, but we really are ready to be with it, we can imagine seeing, feeling, sensing, or hearing ourselves being separated from whatever is pulling us out of the feeling. For example, if you are the one going through the process, you could see your mind pulling you out of the emotion with ropes or strings. Then you can imagine lovingly and knowingly, with gratitude for the mind because it's trying to save you, cutting those cords or strings so that they fall away from the mind and into the emotion. Step 3 is validate the present feeling. In this step, we give the emotion or feeling the message that we are completely with it. We see it as valid, we care about it, and we're ready to listen. And we want to know what it has to say, and that we are open to fully receiving it. This is the validation that we didn't get growing up. This is the unconditional love that we did not get, quite likely because the people in our lives didn't know how to give it. This is what we have been waiting for all of our lives. Yeah, show yourself. Frozen, I know. Give this gift of validation. It's life-changing. This step is the opposite of self-abandonment. It allows you to see your intense emotional feelings and to offer up the memory that is attached to. It's what makes your subconscious feel safe enough to offer up the original source of the feeling to your conscious awareness. You may choose to use an affirmative mantras during this step to deepen your ability to truly allow your emotion to feel validated, to trust your presence, and to truly accept the validation that you offer. As long as it feels strong to you, any affirmative mantra will do. Here's some examples of statements that people might repeat to themselves or say out loud. I am completely here with you or with this right now. I'm here with you in this. I'm with you no matter what. I am open and ready to feel this. I am open and willing to receive anything you want or need to show me. I choose to feel this unconditionally. I welcome this feeling. Basically, any words that help you to complete this first level of validation are worth saying and repeating because they will help you stay calm and focused. The reality is that this feeling is valid, and it is there for a reason. It has meaning, and it is part of you. That is why it is so important for you to validate it to yourself. Step 4. Invite the memory to surface. In this step, use the sensations of the feeling flavor as if it were a rope connecting you to the original or causation of this very feeling. Ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this feeling? Instead of mentally chasing the answer, let your being offer it up to you, like a bubble floating up from the depths of the ocean. We don't need to conceptually re-experience the full memory to integrate an aspect of ourselves that is frozen in the past. Sometimes, just being with a feeling enables us to integrate the emotional charge of the memory, which might be the only part that is frozen or stuck. The actual memory might not even surface. If we only need emotional integration, a tangible memory is unlikely to come. If we become conscious and aware of an actual memory, we are meant to gain wisdom from mentally experiencing and interacting with it. In other words, we are meant to become aware of that memory because in doing so, we are assisted in our current development. Often the mind and the emotion both are in need of healing and integration. When this is the cause, memories surface as a result of asking the question, when was the first time I felt this exact feeling? Another way to approach this is to ask the feeling itself as if it were a completely separate being. When was the first time I felt you? Keep in mind that we have a limited view of memory. We rely on the visual aspects of our lives so heavily that we forget that there are many different kinds of memories. Our bodies can remember sensations, smells, sounds, feelings. So because you just don't see anything, does not mean that you are not getting back a memory. Also, because we were feeling beings instead of thinking beings when we were very, very, very young, some of the earliest memories that we have consist of only emotional or sensational memories. For example, a person who is recalling a memory in the womb of a mother who didn't want the pregnancy will often not see anything. Instead, she might have an intense, all-consuming feeling of being stuck and feeling unwanted. It's tempting when we want to understand why we feel the way we feel to try and rush this process. We might try to go looking for the memory mentally, but doing this, we tend to get ourselves off track. Instead, I recommend that you learn to take a back seat and treat the inside of your body as if it were a movie screen. Simply wait, watch, and feel for what shows up on its own. Don't forget, it might appear in the form of an image, a smell, a taste, or a feeling. Work with whatever kind of memory surfaces. No matter how fragmented it may seem, work with whatever comes up, even if it's not what you expected. Trust that your being knows what needs integration, and be open to surprises. If you doubt the realness or the truth of what you are remembering, try to set that thought aside by simply letting it be there, and continue to remain open to whatever other things do come up. At this point, it's not about how true or untrue, real or not, something is. It's about your being trying to reintegrate itself in the way it feels it needs to. If no memory surfaces after a long period of time, allow yourself to stay longer with whatever sensation you are happening to feel in real time. Then decide whether you want to gradually come back to the present moment, or whether you want to do a visualization involving your inner child. If you want to do a visualization involving your inner child, imagine that your inner child, at whatever age you see them, is standing or sitting in front of you and is experiencing the exact same emotion that you are experiencing right now. Then jump to step 8 of the completion process with regards to your visualized inner child and go through the remainder of the completion process just as you would have done if a memory had come to your awareness. Memories are buried deep, for some of us than others. We need to remind ourselves that if no memory comes up, that is okay too. We are doing enough just by being present with ourselves and by offering our beings the opportunity to reintegrate in whatever way possible. Step 5. Re-experiencing the memory. When an earlier memory surfaces, observe it and experience the memory in whatever way it comes to you. Take time to be present with the intensity of this feeling and the memory. You are, in essence, allowing yourself to emotionally re-experience the original memory. At this point, we want to fully experience the memory as it is. This is just a deeper level of integration. We are taking our emotional vipassana practice in step 2 to the next level. We're gifting our inner child with the same unconditional, focused presence that we gave to ourselves earlier. You will often find that as you do this step, even more of the memory will reveal itself to you. It unfolds before your eyes and may even begin to make sense. Sometimes, when we are in a memory, we will not initially witness it in first-person perspective. We may be observing the event as if a narrator or an audience member is watching the scene. This is especially true if we are dealing with a memory that was particularly traumatic and caused us to disassociate. However, witnessing it now in first-person perspective is important for integration. So if you are not in first-person perspective, become aware of that and consciously choose to merge into first-person perspective and experience the memory from that point of view. In other words, become your child self in that scene. If you feel like you absolutely cannot handle participating in this memory in the first-person perspective, then do not force yourself. You must wait until it feels less frightening, and then you might be able to. If that feeling does not happen this time, that is okay. You can still progress through the rest of the process with some amount of distance between yourself and your child self, who is in the memory. However, keep in mind that if you don't merge into the first-person perspective within the memory, you will most likely have to return to this memory at a later date when you're ready to do so. You simply integrate more of yourself each time you return. Think of it as the difference between taking a bite out of a cookie and eating the whole thing. Step 6. Validating the feeling within the memory. This is the important point where you let the emotion from the past know that you are completely with it. You see it as valid, you care about it, and you're ready to listen, and that you want to know what it has to say. Give yourself permission to fully receive the message from this original emotion, the one that arose in step 5. Step 6, in conjunction with step 5, forms crucial aspects of memory work related to trauma. Many people who are familiar with trauma know that disassociation can be triggered by trauma. Dissociative states are psychological states where someone separates from his or her experience. We've all done that, I think. Disassociation is a defense mechanism that enables us to avoid an unpleasant experience. There are mild and severe forms of it, and the mildest end of disassociation A person could simply daydream instead of focusing on what she is doing or experiencing in the moment. Or a person might go numb. At the severe end of the disassociation spectrum, a person might detach from her reality completely and start to experience periods of time where she loses a sense of her own identity or creates new identities. Earlier in the book, we discussed the fact that everyone has experienced trauma. Therefore, everyone has experienced post-traumatic stress to some degree. Today's common wisdom seems to indicate that disassociation is a symptom of post-traumatic stress, but the real truth is quite the opposite. Disassociation is, in fact, the cause of post-traumatic stress. Consciousness can divide itself. We live in a universe where the only reason that you perceive yourself as one person throughout time is because your own consciousness is arranging that perception for you for the purpose of learning. We covered this idea briefly in Chapter 4 when we learned about time. This means even though we perceive ourselves as singular, infinite beings, finite beings, not infinite, finite beings, that is an illusion. As we discussed in a previous chapter, our consciousness can split itself in the same way that a river splits off into streams, and this is exactly what the consciousness is doing when someone disassociates within a moment of trauma. Part of the person goes forward, while a part of them branches off and remains stuck at the moment of trauma because it feels like it cannot go through the experience. In essence, an aspect of our being is frozen in time. Like a skipping CD, the part of you that disassociates never progresses past the memory in that song, but just keeps replaying itself over and over in your unconscious mind. When we disassociate, we don't allow ourselves to actually experience what is occurring. This may serve us in the moment, but it enables us to focus all of our energy towards surviving either mentally, emotionally, or physically, or all three. Because the consciousness splits off during a moment of trauma. Your brain stores traumatic memories in a different way than it would store normal memories. Traumatic memories are not processed or integrated into a person's ongoing life in the same way that normal memories are. This is one reason why it's often so difficult for people to consciously recall their traumatic memories. Some years down the line, when we have achieved safety, that's when the old memory, especially the emotions associated with the memory, begin to try to reintegrate. This is why we start having flashbacks or getting triggers. In order to become whole again, we must reintegrate the aspects of ourselves that was split off in the moment of trauma. And to do that, we must experience the memory that we disassociated from. We must, in essence, re-experience the traumatic experience that caused the part of us to disassociate. Experiencing the memory. This part of the completion process is where we can move through the re-experience of a memory from first-person perspective and thereby allow our fragmented self, the one who's stuck in the past, to rejoin us in the present to find resolution. This is the real way to cure post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, if you don't have PTSD, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me? The truth is that these are mild forms of disassociation that occur when someone experiences any kind of traumatic event that they cannot resolve in that moment. And Any disassociation leads to a split in consciousness. Part of you does not move forward when this happens. So, for example, small children at a birthday party. For their brother or sister, they might become jealous because they are not getting any presents. They're too young to understand why they're being excluded, and this can be traumatic for a child. If they're shamed for feeling jealous, this child is going to have to find a way to reject and therefore suppress the aspect of himself that felt jealous. He must disassociate from the aspect of himself that feels jealous. But that aspect of self that felt jealous did not go away. It stays frozen in time at the moment that it disassociated from that child and becomes a subconscious aspect of the self. Because the law of attraction is still responding to it, the person will attract reflections of that lost self that felt jealous. The reflection felt in the present day will be circumstances and events in his adult life that cause him to feel jealous. The unintegrated jealous self is being triggered in an effort to try to rejoin the rest of his human being, whom it belongs to. So this adult might feel jealous of a coworker who is getting all the attention at work. The first adult has no idea that the strong jealous emotion is in fact just a reflection of a past event that he doesn't even remember. Related to a part of himself that disassociated from himself as a small child at a birthday party. Wow. By re-experiencing the memory, this time fully experiencing it, the adult is able to move through the memory. This is done by completely, with a strong emotional feeling, affirming that it is valid, affirming that it is cared about, and that the person is ready and willing to hear what the memory wants him to know. This approach is the exact opposite of the way a strong emotion was approached the first time around, which was the unwillingness to even deal with it. This time, as adults going through the completion process, we are demonstrating that we are now open to fully receiving it. Long ago, by disassociating, we sent ourselves a message that we would not be there with ourselves during difficult experiences. For the sake of survival, we unconsciously gave ourselves the message that we didn't have our own backs and that we are not there for ourselves. During this step 6, the healing action we take, that we give ourselves the opposite message, the healing message, I am here with myself, and so I am not alone in this. I care about you, my child self, and the way you feel is important and valid. A memory beneath a memory. Sometimes a memory will surface from your adult or teen life. If this occurs, before we move on to the next step of the process, we use that memory to see if there is anything even deeper. Usually when we have an upsetting memory that comes from our teenage years or our adult life, it's not really the root memory. It is instead an earlier reflection of the root memory, which usually occurred between conception and the age of 8. You'll remember that earlier I described cover emotions, which exist to cover up or mask our deeper, more painful emotions. This memory of a teenager or adult trauma is like a cover, in that is it merely a reflection and not the root one at all. So at this point, we want to encourage ourselves to follow through the ice with this memory, the same way that we fell through the ice to figure out the deeper emotions. For this to work, We must be fully merging in first-person perspective with our child self, and again, ask the question, when was the first time I experienced this memory? Remember, it's crucial to witness the reflective memory in the first-person perspective if we are trying to use that memory to access an even earlier memory. Merging into first-person perspective in the teenage or adult memory before trying to go deeper into an earlier memory. When an earlier memory begins to surface, repeat step 5 and 6 with this memory before continuing with the rest of the process. You don't need to come back to a reflective memory unless you feel compelled to do so, because by altering the causation in the deeper memory, you are automatically affecting the later memory that is casually linked to it. Be aware that it's possible that if a later memory is traumatic, we need to move all the way through the completion process with the later memory before we can go back to access an earlier memory that is casually linked to. Remain open to doing it this way. If the earlier memory will not come to your awareness, give it time. When you feel as if you have completely surrendered to the experience or the memory, in whatever way it comes up, and you feel the release or relief that comes as a result of no longer resisting the experience of it, you can then move on to the next step. Hallelujah. And that is the end of chapter 6. Man, that was lengthy. Chapter 7 goes through steps 7 through 13. There's 18 steps. Cool. Well, that was that. Thank you guys very, 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 very much for being here with me. I appreciate your time and your energy. That was a lovely chapter. It was long. Did you like it? I hope you did. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so very, very much for anybody who came in here and listened and shared your sacred, special energy with me here tonight. I love you to the moon and back. You mean the world to me. I hope you know. And I will be seeing you tomorrow morning, early in the morning, if you want to do a cool meditation with me. I don't even know what I'm going to do quite yet, but we will see. Ooh, I have a good idea now. It just came into my head. I know what I'm going to do. So I hope to see you tomorrow morning at either 9 p.m. Central or 7 a.m. 9 a.m. Central or 7 a.m. Arizona time. We're going to be doing a meditation together tomorrow. So I hope to see you